King of Podcasts proudly presents The Broadcasters Podcast. A weekly media commentary talking about traditional and digital media headlines and talking to the content creators out front and behind the scenes. Here is the King of Podcasts.
And we're back for another edition of the Broadcasters Podcast. This is episode 151. Thanks for being here. We're rounding out the year. The month of December is upon us. And a lot of things are still changing right now. The pendulum has swung from one direction to the other as this pandemic has continued to affect and really catapult and escalate a lot of changes going on within the industry, media and entertainment. We're going to talk about that because it's fascinating to see what corporate decides to do and how people feel about how they're consuming their content. Well, this week, the digital disruption has taken a much bigger step because now we talked last week about how some movies are trying to be pushed over from cinemas to over the top or streaming services like Netflix, Disney Plus, HBO Max, and others. We talked last week about Wonder Woman 1984 being exclusively pushed out at the same time it goes into theaters. It will also go in a 1 month window onto HBO Max. Well, the news continues because Warner Brothers has decided, well, we're going to just double down. We're going to cash in and hope for the best with HBO Max. This is a risky move, but again, with where things are with the theaters, this is what they're deciding to do. And this is a major change for the cinemas. They're going to have to understand. And the theatrical window, as we've known it for many years, is dead. It's over. The theaters will no longer have the exclusivity it looks like to have movies out. Because either which way, the studios feel like they need to go make their money somewhere. And they don't feel like they can go ahead and wait for the theaters to get back to normal for the movies to come out. Because there's so many they're waiting on. They've already spent money on them. They have to make a return on investment. So they're going to go ahead with it. It's affecting a lot of things. This is not a small decision. So the plan is Warner Brothers is going to debut their entire 2021 film slate, which will include a lot of movies. Here's a story from Variety.com. For the next 12 months, they will be hosting their entire slate, which will include a list of 17 films. That will include the newest Matrix, Matrix 4, Denis Villeneuve's Dune remake, a classic from 1982 or 83, I think it is. Lin-Manuel Miranda, who's of Hamilton fame, his musical adaptation of In the Heights, The Sopranos prequel, The Many Saints of Newark, and the new Suicide Squad will debut both on HBO Max and in theaters on their respective release dates. So the move to release movies day and date underscores the crisis facing movie theaters and the rising importance of streaming services in the wake of a global health crisis that's decimated the film exhibition community. Other movies that are also going to be part of this is The Little Things, which is Denzel Washington's latest thriller, a biographical drama called Judas and the Black Messiah, a remake of Tom and Jerry, Godzilla vs. Kong, another version of Mortal Kombat, a new movie with Angelina Jolie called Those Who Wish Me Dead, The Conjuring's latest release, The Devil Made Me Do It, Space Jam: A New Legacy, Reminiscence with Hugh Jackman, James Wan's Malignant, and the Will Smith sports drama King Richard. So that's going to make a big deal for HBO Max subscribers, which has been out since last spring without getting much sizzle. And Disney is also looking to do the same thing where they're also pondering taking a lot of their feature films and putting them exclusively onto Disney Plus for a premium price. So that's going to get people talking. 2021, if people want to go ahead and start buying, that might be the idea they'll take. Actually quite interesting. So here's what they're going to do. Like Wonder Woman 1984, these films are going to be available on HBO Max for subscribers for 31 days. After the 1 month mark, the movies will only play in theaters until they reach the traditional home entertainment frame. and then they can rent through online platforms like Amazon, iTunes, or Fandango. It's unclear whether the titles will return to HBO Max. So again, only a 30-day window, but the cinemas will be able to have it up as long as they want. And as far as I know, HBO Max is going to just include it in the price. So it's not all the movies. That's the one thing you got to think about. There's a lot of big movies that are there, but it's not everybody. Now, if the Disney movies take a shot like this, that's going to be another story. Here's what's going to happen. There's going to be a number of movie theaters that are going to go. Here's the thing. If Disney did this, I think it will be a much bigger deal, because with Disney, if they're going to decide to do anything with Marvel, if the DC universe gets compromised, if others decide to do the same thing, that's a bigger problem. Studio doing this. And the thing is, right now, Warner Media feels the need, feels the pressure. They got the heat right now. They're feeling it on the collar. Well, steam under the collar. They feel like they need to go ahead and bank the movies they have right now, because they have to do it. So they can do that. So they're saying it's only for 1 year. That's the other thing as well to be thought about. So it's not as if the movies will not be available. But again, it will be made for 1 year to see what happens. And I don't know how people are going to feel about it. So Variety reported earlier this week that the Warners were considering sending several films to HBO Max and theaters day and date, but the studio opted to move forward with the rest of the upcoming slate because the film landscape is getting rockier as pandemic is worsening in parts of the United States. So again, it's the scare of markets like Los Angeles and New York that continue to be hampered with lockdown orders. Again, Los Angeles, just close everything. You know what I mean? It's like cancel everything. This is just hurting business. Now, there's a thing where, okay, the pandemic has definitely hurt small businesses, but again, the corporates like this, the movie theater chains are hurting a lot. And so it wasn't as if the movie theaters have not made plans to kind of shore up some money to make sure they can survive and can stay afloat. So at the moment, more than 60% of U.S. theaters have closed down again. And they're saying there's a bit of a spike of the coronavirus right now as a result of the holidays. Or as a result, the holidays might cause that. Now, to get theaters on board and allow the Warners to break their theatrical contract for Wonder Woman 1984, here's what they're doing to help make up for that. The studio is giving cinemas a much more generous cut of ticket sales. So theater chains are receiving as much as 60% of the revenues. But they won't be the case for upcoming releases. But again, they could be doing that, offering a bigger chunk to cinemas of what they make in the cinemas. And that's not a bad idea. And the thing is, it's like this thought process too. Are you going to want to go ahead and buy? Because remember, some of these people out there, they're going to watch Netflix, they're going to watch Apple TV, they're going to have some plans. HBO Max might not be in their platform. They might decide, you know what? It's not enough for me to go ahead and buy that and Disney Plus and all these other ones and buy a la carte all these services. I only want to have a couple of things. And maybe I just want to have one or two with a Pluto TV app to watch all my other shows, which I'm going to talk about Pluto in a minute because I got to praise those guys. They've been geniuses the last year or two. Really been great stuff with their content. I got to talk about that because that's one thing when it comes to Viacom, CBS, they are a player and a smart player at that because they have something that is unique and different to everybody else. We'll talk about that. So the announcement, according to Variety.com, says it's yet another example of how dramatically the coronavirus crisis has shifted the power dynamic between studios and theater operators. Even with effective vaccines starting to be approved, the latest move suggests the balance may never return in favor of exhibitors. So that's what we're looking at. Now, in terms of what the movies are going to have to be made, Warner Brothers, again, they're offering this as part of what they're doing. So that's one thing. But now, let's move into the other part. When Universal Pictures took an axe to their theatrical window, decided we're going to take all our movies off the theaters, right? Play them exclusively. Their terms of agreement with chains like AMC and Cinemark make them look like downright martyrs. So now, the new packs that were created, the studio could put new movies on premium video on demand in as little as 17 days. So again, the theaters right now are getting hurt. And in less than 3 weeks, you could start seeing some of the movies that you didn't get a chance to watch first. They'll just get moved over. Films that at least generate $50 million in opening weekend ticket sales will traditionally play exclusively in theaters for 31 days or 5 full weekends. New releases remain on the big screen for 75 to 90 days, traditionally, before they move to digital platforms for a rental fee of $19.99. So Universal's agreed to give the two circuits a cut of digital sales to get them to play ball. So again, they have to go and put some money back into it to make that work. Now, in terms of Tenet for Warner Brothers, they released it in September in an attempt to revive a nationwide return to moviegoing. The $200 million budgeted sci-fi epic mostly fell flat. It generated some ticket sales overseas, but were lackluster in the United States. The movie is expected to lose many millions. Well, I didn't look what the latest numbers were for Tenet, but again, I know it's not going to make the money that it did, but we needed to see what would happen. We needed to have something to keep people to come back to the theaters. This is also to help out the movie theaters. This was, it was a sacrifice, if you will. And again, they say it was a failure because of how much they thought it would make. But when it comes down to it, if I look at the charts right now and what they made, well, so far, Tenet, domestically, $57 million, international, $300 million, and makes for $358 million worldwide. And again, it still keeps playing right now. It has been out in the theaters 13 weeks. It's not making as much money as it did, sure, but it's also not playing as many theaters. But again, nobody else is. I mean, still this year, for what it's worth, I want to see what it looks like as what looks like how all the movies did this year anyway. Tenet, for what it's worth, compared to the other movies that came out in 2020. No, we're still early in the year. We're still late in the year. We still got a couple weeks left. Okay, the highest domestic grossing film for 2020 is Bad Boys for Life at $204,000. And when you look at the theaters, you look at the movie, what it did worldwide, international, $424 million. So it made the money, but again, how much was Tenet going to make compared to everything else? Tenet got only dropped into 2,930 theaters. Again, it didn't have enough places to go. And they put a lot of money into this. They had to go make their money back. So they probably made their money back as a result. Again, $200 million to make back $358. It made something. They're not going to go ahead. They'll probably break even after everything's all said and done. At the least. I'd imagine, especially with home video, they're at least going to get that. So it's not like it's a complete wash. I don't think it is. Other than that, Sonic the Hedgehog, $146 million domestic. Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of Harley Quinn, third. Doolittle, fourth, which tanked. Invisible Man was fifth. So again, there was not a lot of movies that really did great. But for what it's worth, we understand that the theaters are going to get destroyed in some markets because of the fact that this pandemic continuing to be a panic to everybody out there. Everybody's still worried about putting out content, or just all these different states that continue to put some pretty drastic draconian measures. And listen, people are protesting at this, and it's not anything about politics. It's a matter of the politicians really overdoing their power. It's more or less that, anything else. So the effects of what happens with this, let's talk about that. Well, Hollywood Reporter talked about this with the AMC Theater folks and Adam Aaron, which I'm glad I actually took my money out of AMC Theaters when I was putting stock in them back in April and May. So the streaming plan, they say, will sacrifice studio profits. So Adam Aaron says that clearly Warner Media, quote, intends to sacrifice a considerable portion of the profitability of its movie studio division and its partners and filmmakers to subsidize HBO Max. As for AMC, we will do all in our power to ensure that Warner does not do so at our expense. We will aggressively pursue economic terms that preserve our business. So again, is AMC going to do a lot to help out Warner Studios, Warner Brother Movies, to help out with what they're doing? Possibly not. And, it almost makes sense that they do. Now, the move does come after Wonder Woman 1984 was going to be simultaneously streamed and screened on Christmas Day. AMC already was notified about it. So now Aaron already says the company has an immediate and urgent dialogue with the studio, and it will be selling 200 million shares in the hope of improving liquidity. The stock fell about 16% on Thursday afternoon after this announcement. Did not help anybody, that's for sure. So we heard about that, and now that's just AMC theaters. What about the rest of them? Well, the other movie theaters also took a hit as a result of all this. Because when you look at the other movie theaters, Cinemark shares lost 22% of value on the news of this. AMC Entertainment actually ended up losing 16%, IMAX down 8%, and the ad firm National Cinemedia pulled back 5%. Meanwhile, the rest of the market went high. So everybody knows that this was the effect of this story. One Wall Streeter reporting to Deadline.com talked about that it's already hitting an exhibition industry already teetering on the brink. He said that, quote, that raises the bar for all streamers. If enough major studios make this change, it could become permanent. Even if it's the wrong decision for studios long-term given the outsized impact of the theatrical window. He said, it's got investors wondering if Walt Disney may toss out a similar bomb on its hotly anticipated Investor Day next week. So keep an eye out if Disney decides to follow Warner Brothers and do the same thing, another hit to the theaters. Could they very well do that? Absolutely. So why is this being done? Well, HBO Max so far has about 8.6 million activated subscribers. Not a whole lot since they started in the spring. But again, it's another service just like Quibi. At least they're not Quibi that went dead just the other day on December 1st. At $14.99, it's the high end of the streaming price range, and given its roots in HBO as a premium pay TV add-on, it has been able to do any Disney or Apple style deep discounting. In a crowded streaming market, their high-end titles could drive growth, especially at no charge for subscribers. That's the most important thing. They're giving it up to get that $15 a month subscription for all those families that come in on it, instead of hoping for $10, $12 for maybe not so many people showing up at the theaters as it once was. Plus, the other thing that's being said is that AT&T is loaded with a mountain of debt, $149 billion. So the gambit is risky. And here's what's also being said. Quote, if you take all your films in 2021 and do a simultaneous window, it's highly doubtful that they will be able to attract enough subscribers to compensate for the lost theatrical revenue. Are they still going to spend $102 million to market the big films? Losses occurred from HBO Max could be massive next year. But it's really theaters that will be left cold. They will lose the first month of a film, usually about 90% of its theatrical revenue. And here's what one analyst says as well. Quote, maybe you see it at home and say it looks like something great to watch on IMAX screen or a big screen. There's still something special about going to the movies, but this is certainly a disincentive. Now, the same analyst also says, quote, there's nothing to replace the kind of meaningful economic activity that a theatrical release provides as a movie gets established. A year from now, conditions will be completely different. So I don't think we could sit here today and say it's the end of theaters. There's so much demand from people to get together. You see it every day. So the old thing is, it's a lot to be said about how we're going to get to this point, and man, will this work out? Now, there's another story I can bring up here that also talks about the questions about the movie business and what will happen. So I'm going to briefly talk about those. This is also from Variety.com. They brought this up. And questions are really quickly, what does it mean for movie theaters? Again, it's not good news. Huge movies are going to HBO Max at the same time they appear at local multiplexes. Again, this is temporary. Now, Warner Brothers can successfully turn around and go back to a model where consumers patiently wait 3 months until the next Batman reboot wraps up an exclusive theatrical run. And let's be honest, it wasn't like theaters were the model of health before the bombshell dropped. So again, it is survival of the fittest. You got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of home first before you help everybody else. And as for HBO Max, they ask that it's a murderer's row of event pictures that may force Disney Plus to raid Disney's film lineup as a way to counteract Warner Brothers' big move. Can Black Widow really debut only in theaters in a world in which Dune is launching on streaming? And as for Warner Brothers, it's no longer the straw that stirs the drink. They've always remained supreme as the sexiest, most storied, and most glamorous part of the Time Warner Media empire. So HBO Max has risen to the top right now. That's what their focus is on. So film and TV exists more to feed that service, which AT&T clearly sees as the entertainment conglomerate's future. And the ability to make fun and exciting movies is as valuable in this new world order, but its relationship with exhibitors doesn't mean that much these days. And for other studios, we see the new models coming into play. So other studios that are coming out, Sony or Paramount, they're left with some unappealing choices. Would Paramount's parent company invest more into CBS All Access, which will be called Paramount Plus coming up next year, pushing movies in a bid to compete, or does it refashion itself as a supplier to these new streaming leviathans? Sony, which doesn't have any streaming presence much at all, would likely go route, or maybe even become a more appealing acquisition target for an Apple or Amazon looking to go after HBO Max and what they're doing. And the theatrical windows, they said, gone, baby, gone. The old model is now a casualty of the pandemic. Studios, through the amount of time they had to wait to release movies, was too long. They wanted to shorten it to be met with fierce resistance from exhibitors. When it comes to coronavirus, they didn't let a crisis go to waste. So before I get to my next story, a couple of things I want to make mention of. Because of the support that you give to this program and to my Wrestling Gazelle podcast and to my When I'm Not Podcasting series, I'm coming up to the anniversary of my Wrestling Gazelle podcast, which will be December 18th, 2012, when I first started doing podcasting on my own exclusively. And I decided to do it right here from the Soul Studio, which is my bedroom. And kind of the setup has changed a little bit in time, but with strategic investments, I've always wanted to make sure I always improve the quality of this program in terms of content and in terms of audio. And so I decided to go and make a change today. I just ordered a new microphone, and I've been using a Blue Yeti for the last, 4 years, I think it is. So I'm going to go ahead and let this sucker go. It's done me a lot of good. And I'm going to move up to the Shure MV7 USB microphone, which I always like the SM7, or the the SM7, that's what it is. Shure microphones have always been good to me. I've always liked them, always loved the sound of them. So I decided to go and take that route now and move up to this. So I'm going to step up to a new microphone. It's supposed to ship in here in 2 weeks. So by the time I get to my program 2 weeks from now, which will be December 16th, my episode of the Wrestling Gazelle podcast, I do that night. Hopefully the microphone will be here and I can have it installed and ready to go to record on that Wednesday. And then that Broadcasters podcast in 2 weeks will also be behind that new microphone. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll let you all know about that once I get to it very soon. Looking forward to it. Long time coming for the change. Love that. Love that. Now, coming up also in a little bit here on the program, I also want to go ahead and continue my conversation and close out an interview that I've been doing with a lovely and talented Stephanie Andujar, actress, singer, dancer, and producer. You might have seen her in some many fan favorite programming like Blue Bloods, Law & Order SVU, Orange is the New Black. She also was in the award-winning film Precious. She had a role there. And she's now part of her own family-owned and operated production company in Andujar Productions. We talked to her more about what she's doing with her own projects and what she's also, just her experience as an actress, really, and just being a performer. And what she's been able to do through auditions and going through all the different things she went through. So we got that coming up a little bit later on. A great interview with Stephanie Andujar. I'll close that out here on their Broadcasters podcast coming up a little bit later on. So I want to go for the good news or the bad news? Well, let's go for the bad news first. We'll talk about that next. So with the pandemic, of course, drastic changes being made on the theatrical front. From screening to streaming or simultaneous. Well, Disney is now putting out layoffs. Merry Christmas! iHeartRadio is good at this too. Yes, Merry Christmas at Disney. It's a bloodbath, somebody says. More than 100 executives have been impacted by Thursday's layoffs. That's stupid. Corporate types? Well, you know what? They're not holding their own. I don't know who it is that really was being affected, that really did things bad. But again, if I think about it, ABC, the network has been bad. Very bad. They're not doing well with their programming. And with Disney and 20th Television and Fox, I guess there's just a lot of places where the merger did create layoffs. Well, now we have more because of what's going on. So 2 longtime Disney staffers are calling it a bloodbath in the wave of layoffs happening at the company. Staff reductions are taking place in Disney's General Entertainment Content Unit, including ABC and Studio 20th Television. More than 100 staffers have been impacted by layoffs. They talk about some of the people that have been around. Vicky Drummer, a longtime ABC executive who spent nearly a quarter century at Disney and mostly served as head of current for the broadcast network, is among the senior executives laid off. Also, ABC's executive vice president of scheduling, Andy Kubitz, who's been there for 8 years, also lost his job. On the studio side, 20th Century Television, Dan Kupetz has also been let go. And Hulu executives are also worried about their jobs after Disney earlier gave the head of originals, Craig Erwich, oversight of ABC. And Disney has continued to restructure and consolidate workforce to better position for the company's streaming future while eliminating staff redundancies for cost-saving purposes. So they're structurally repositioning across Disney. That happened October 12th when the new CEO, Bob Chapek, shifted the company's priority to streaming. So again, they're going to just start cutting. And there's a lot of restructuring of different departments. A lot of companies are going to be put together with a lot of different channels. It's just so much. Not to mention also 28,000 park employees laid off in September, mostly in California. And Disney reporting a $3.1 billion third quarter loss this month, including a $4.7 billion hit during second quarter. With all that they're doing, that's not good. Not good at all. No bueno. As for the media, when it comes to the media itself, it looks like the news media more or less is also hurting in the same vein. The report is from thehill.com. U.S. media layoffs are on track for a record high in 2020. An estimated 28,637 cuts were reported in the industry by late October. Variety, citing from Challenger, Gray, and Christmas, reported nearly as many as those in the media sector. In comparison, there were 10,000 job losses in 2019, 15,474 in 2018. So this is huge. AMC Networks cutting 1 in 10 workers last week. Viacom laying off 450 people in May. NBC Universal laying off 5% of employees and has broader plans to cut 1 in 10 workers, according to Variety. Amid the cuts, the number of new media jobs is up compared to 2019. Despite the number of job losses, the media industry barely cracked the top 20 industries for layoffs, according to the data. The highest was the leisure industry, followed by retail and transportation. So one of the things I'll tell you that has been a real enjoyable when you're not enjoying the programming that's out there. See, I'll tell you this, with all the streaming services that are out there, you know, all the new content's great, but you know, you always want to have something you can watch back and binge, because maybe you don't want to go and binge on a show that you're really trying to keep up with the storylines on, right? And sometimes you just want some fluff programming. And you know what? You don't want to deal with cable because it costs too damn much. Well, now, you know, not too long ago, Pluto TV came into the limelight and has been doing so well ever since. They keep making some great deals in their content. So, like, if you want to binge watch shows like Cold Case Files, you want to catch American Gladiators, you want to catch MTV, you know, programming, whatever you want. You want to catch Carol Burnett or Johnny Carson or One Day at a Time or Three's Company. They're all out there. And let me tell you, they just gave me one of the best binge watching options possible. Me being a big game show fan forever since I was a kid. The Price is Right, the Bob Barker era. Let me tell you something. What a fantastic idea for a channel. I know they used to run it on the Game Show Network, but I never had Game Show Network at the time to watch the old Price is Right reruns on there. But there he is. So they now have it. It's a new channel aimed at highlighting the game show's heyday in the 1980s and celebrating Bob Barker's hosting skills. Amy Kessner, Senior VP of Content Strategy and Global Partnerships at Pluto TV, says that The Price is Right is classic feel-good TV and part of television history with Bob Barker at the helm. These iconic game shows have not been televised in 40 years, and Pluto TV is thrilled to be the exclusive home of these classics as they bring our viewers back in time to a treasured era of television. Because again, you can watch that show. The only thing you notice is that the clothing is kind of wonky. It's 80s clothing, it's 80s style, and the prices are much cheaper. And yeah, those cars were like something else, I'll tell you what. Except that those Pontiac Grand Prix still look damn good in those days. Let me just tell you that. And so did the trucks. I had Toyota trucks on there that look pretty good too. As we know, Bob Barker hosted a show from 1972 to 2007, 17 Emmy Awards along the way, Emmy Award for a Lifetime Achievement in 1999, The Price is Right itself, 43 Emmy Awards. And so when I saw this, I'm like, wow, man, they just gave me something that's just so much fun. Showtime. In the meantime, Pluto also doing what they're doing for the Viacom CBS umbrella of networks. Showtime Selects. So now you can actually watch some of the Showtime programming, sample quite a bit of programming to make you buy Showtime. Pretty smart, I must say. Good idea and all around. So I like that as well. So I got one more story to go and wrap things up before I get back to my part 2 of my interview with Stephanie Andujar. And only days closer until I get that brand new microphone in 2 weeks. I'm looking forward to it. When it comes to streaming, by the way, I see Blinding Lights. Congratulations. The Weeknd gets the number 1 song of the year. The Billboard Hot 100 year-end chart. Good stuff. Rolling Stone talks about music and the industry's future. That social media, not streaming, is what the music industry's future is going to be. Music streaming subscriptions contribute $8.5 billion a year to the record business. But the future may lie in social media, gaming, live streaming, and fitness. Now, Warner, we're talking about Warner Media, they generated over $3.8 billion in recorded music revenues in the last year. 63% of that came from Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube. But Steve Cooper, CEO of Warner Music Group, made a revelation to analysts when Warner released its latest financials, with an expanding number of partnerships including Facebook, TikTok, and Snap, among others. Social media is already a meaningful 9-figure revenue stream for us, and is growing at a faster rate than subscription streaming. So massive social media companies are paying massive money to massive music companies for the use of their music. A little extra use of massive here in this Rolling Stone article. But we mustn't be guilty of short memories about this stuff. Facebook, TikTok, and Snap back in 2018 were paying Warner precisely $0 for the use of your music. And in the case of Facebook, they were infringing music copyrights with abandon. And then Warner inked its first ever holistic licensing deal with Facebook and Instagram. And it wasn't until August 2020 that Snapchat did a music licensing agreement with Warner, TikTok in August 2020, and now the social media is starting to pay money for licensing. As subscription streaming the growth is slowing down, Cooper's pointing out a big neon finger at the potential social platforms to take the record industry into its next phase of growth, not just in terms of artist marketing and promotion, but also cold hard cash. We're standing on the threshold of a new golden age of music, and the opportunities are everywhere. We see subscription streaming just as the beginning. It's only one of our many avenues for long-term growth. And further evidence holds social media pots of gold, including the fact that social media struck the first major multi-year licensing deal with TikTok. If that goes double, then there will be a lot of money to be doled out, where Tencent, a Chinese music company, which has a stronghold in social media, music streaming, and online karaoke, generated over $700 million for social entertainment services, and then like live streaming and community karaoke in its last quarter. And they own slices of Universal Music Group, Warner Music Group, and Spotify, among other things. There's more to the story, and of course you can see all of this going on over at broadcasterspodcast.com. All the stories I talked about tonight, you can actually look for all the links there. I hope you go and do that, and I hope you make sure to subscribe to the show. Look for the show where you find it. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, so many others, because it's important. And this is one of my passion projects here, and I do it every week. I never miss a week on it. I love doing this, and there's always stories to talk about. And there's always great people to talk about here on the program, and I really do appreciate who I get to go and talk to on a regular basis, so I'm looking forward to that. In the meantime, I had another wonderful person I talked to in the name of Stephanie Andujar, and I'm going to continue my interview with her. Again, she is an actress, singer, dancer, and producer. Here is part 2 of my interview with Stephanie here on the Broadcasters Podcast. Now, one of the things I can tell you is that when I look at what's going on in Hollywood since April of last year, the unions, the talent agencies versus the writers versus the actors, and just everything, this domino effect of everybody being on strike. And then the pandemic comes and makes it just even worse. But I see all this breaking up. The agencies are falling apart. They're breaking up. The Writers Guild and SAG-AFTRA and all these people are all kind of breaking things up. And obviously with everything that's going on with the Black Lives Matter movement, really diversity, equity, inclusion has been the focus this year. So with all this shattering the old Hollywood establishment, would you want to do a mix of keeping what you're doing with your own production work and still taking some side work in the meantime, because the environment's starting to break up? It's not as controlled as it used to be.
Yeah, I think if anything, we now have, every generation is supposed to leave something for the next generation.
Yeah.
And I just feel like had the generation before me really nurtured a lot of the business, a lot of the way they got to enjoy things, now leave some for us. So then we could leave some for the next one, because that's how it was supposed to be. Unfortunately, not so much now. So now you kind of have to take the bull by the horns and do your own thing. And I think this is why a lot of resources have been created, like the YouTube and the social medias and everything, because everyone wants a platform to be able to put out what they want to share. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, all right, so if you're giving me the resources here and this is what I have to do now, then I'll do it. Because you never know who's watching your content. You never know who you may be affecting. So now if you guys are just leaving me with these resources, kind of like when they leave you with the scraps and they go, okay, we had our glamorous Hollywood moment. Here's the rest of it now for you. And you're like, all right, what am I going to do now? All right, I'll just make they give you lemons, you make lemonade. You know what I'm saying? So to me, it's not like, oh, God, no. Nah, man, I'm like, you know what? I'm able to affect a certain audience. I'm able to put out and create. That's all that matters to me, as long as I'm able to create something. And then now I can make my own red carpet, and I can make if that's the case, I'll invite you. I'll invite other bigwigs and be like, hey, I got a short film premiering. You're invited to New York. We're going to invite you to this event, blah, blah, blah. Once, Rona restrictions are lifted, whatever have you. You know what I mean? I feel like now it's giving us a chance, because before it's so controlled. They want to pick and choose who you want to let in, when it shouldn't be about that. To me, it was always about talent, first of all. Of course. It shouldn't be based on we're doing a favor for so-and-so because they're connected with so-and-so, or because this one is no, it should be based on talent, because that's what I think movies that I've loved growing up watching and other entertainment, you stood gravitated toward it because of the talent that was in it. Not because so-and-so was in it just because they were hot for the moment, like the flavor of the month. Yeah. Nah, man, it was not like that. It was because they truly can act, or they could truly sing. You know what I'm saying? Now it's about, they have 1 million followers, so we're just going to put them in this movie for 5 minutes. You know what I mean?
Merit performance. And there's a lack of putting that down there. And also because of all the things they can go ahead and do to manipulate or kind of help out, especially with music. It doesn't matter. It's an image they want to put out there. And they're more concerned about that. And they're also more concerned about trying to make money off of what made money before, instead of taking something, adapting from a book or adapting from a screenplay or something else, where somebody's got a new script that's around that could be a next winner. But but they don't want, I mean, you can have a mix of having the big blockbusters. Yeah, make your money, movie studios, but then you could also go and put some projects out there, passion projects, and or prop up some independent films, bankroll them so they can get out and get in front. Because those are the ones that make
Quality
Oscars.
projects. Yeah.
Because people want that. That's what they want more, first and foremost. Now, I want to take this, and I thought this was really interesting when it comes to acting, and the grind to become an actor and to become successful. But again, it's the amount of work you got to go and take. So, Showbiz Cheat Sheet, they recently profiled actor Mark Ruffalo. We know from the Marvel movies, The Hulk, right? He first worked as a bartender while trying to get his big break. It took around 10 years. He says he went around 800 auditions that he went through, and not all those were fruitless. Ruffalo was able to land a few roles at a time, but it wasn't what he wanted to do. According to IMDb, he had a whole host of small roles in the 1990s, played one episode arcs in TV shows, did a few short films and features, but not as a star. Although plenty of actors make their living this way, Ruffalo didn't want to be one of them. He dreamed of winning awards and taking on starring roles. And luckily, in one of those auditions, Ruffalo met director Kenneth Lonergan, who would cast him in the 2000 feature film You Can Count on Me. The rest is history. Now, there's so many actors that can make incredible efforts to keep acting work, and your IMDb shows that same path. You've also been up to a decade with an impressive list of acting credits. But now you're focused on your independent work, and that's where you've been right now. Has a digital disruption. Now, do you feel like you got that newfound freedom to where you can find more satisfaction in your own work without the need? I mean, the idea is, do you feel like, what you're doing is more important, and that, Hollywood might just be a paycheck now? It's not like, because it's not yours and you're just taking somebody else's idea, there's much more appreciation for what you're doing now of your own work, even though it might not be anything that be as widespread, or it could be promoted as widespread as Hollywood could.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, because when you're an actor on somebody else's movie or TV show, you're just a part of the equation. Yeah. There's a lot of hands involved in whichever project you're getting on. From the director, that's the director's baby. It's the writer's baby, the producer's baby. It's everybody's baby. And everyone's like, no, I want to own it. No, it's mine. There's a lot of big egos in the business, a lot. And that's why I guess they're always like, you got to be fragile with, But it's like, you know what? If you hired me to do my job, then you're going to feel like you're a part of it too, because you're like, but wait, you picked me because I'm a good actor, because I can embody this character. So let me feel like I have a little piece in it. But that's why, for me, I would always do my part, not get so attached, and then let them do what they got to do. You know what I mean? And then move on to the next project. That's why I always loved films, particularly because films you might work on a month or two and then you move on. There's no attachment to it. With series now, you're a little more attached if they start bringing you back for recurring roles. And then even my show, I don't know if this might be my last season or if I'll keep doing it, but you get so attached to these characters. At first, I didn't even know if I could do this. I was like, can I even play these characters back to back to back to back? It's a lot of work, man. And sometimes there's some days I don't even want to see these characters. And I'm like, I don't want to revisit some of these characters I'm playing because it's too much,
Right.
But I just kept doing that. And I feel like, yeah, man, it's a fine line between at least I remember being with that other manager that I felt like she wasn't supporting me enough. When I finally let go of that, I felt like my soul was free to produce now, to create. Before, I felt like I was under lock and key, and it just felt like, then finally I got to do my own thing, and I said, whoa, this feels so much better. I feel like this is amazing now. Like, I'm finally adding a piece to the puzzle here. I'm showing them that a Latina can write, can direct, can produce. I can bring in other talents. I can bring in other people now who can showcase their talents and whatever have you. I mean, that's the way this business should have been formed, and it should have been going in that direction, not always plucking from the same people. And, but Hollywood can't complain either about, but now, y'all should let us in a long time ago. You know what I'm saying? Y'all should have let us have a piece too, instead of just having just one of each. You know what I mean? That's how I look at it. And that's why I know people will be like, but why'd you do this? And why'd you do your own thing? And because I had to. I had to create something. Because why not?
No, exactly.
Why
And
not?
the thing is, it's what's happening where you have so many less the amount of companies that are owning all the different projects or owning all the different companies, the movie studios and all, and just knowing that they're only going to let so much into the mix, and it's saddening. Now, one of the things I can also think is just I like the idea of where we have artists that come in and they can give a crossover. So one of the things I was going to ask you as well was just out of curiosity, because you're also doing music. There's always other routes that are very viral right now. So obviously anything Spanish-based reggaeton or just doing pop or just doing anything of that nature is getting really out there. Or, I can always go ahead and take a flashback back to the 90s when I used to listen to freestyle music, like, the Stevie B, Sweet Sensations, the Cover Girls and things like that. Real quickly, just out of the music you're deciding to perform now, and you're writing and you're singing, talk to me why you wanted to go the route that you did, because you're doing more of a pop sound, correct?
Yeah, it's a bit of a pop, I would say, and I'm also trying to incorporate a little R&B in there because I've always loved singing. I've always loved music, and that's another universe to connect with people. You know what I mean? Like there's a big film and TV fans, but there's also music fans, and music is universal. And I felt like that's another outlet for me to be able to share what I want and to speak and be vocal. You know what I mean? Like just like when I did One Big Dream, that one has a real kind of political tone to it.
Yeah.
It got some pop, but it's a little political. You know what I mean? It's like telling the truth. And I felt like, but isn't that what makes an artist? Isn't that what an artist is supposed to be? It's supposed to be someone who's kind of speaking for the masses, for speaking for how other people feel. If you're feeling like a poem piece, I'm pretty sure other people are too. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm keeping it real. I'm being honest. To me, that's what always an artist was. It was someone who was unabashedly, like, honest and just putting it out there. And you're like, yeah, man, that's what's up. I like music like that. I want to hear something like that on that kind of like poetic term, just speaking your truth. And that's why I started making music, because I was just doing cover songs at first, getting my instruments in tone and tune, and I started that way. And I said, let me do a few cover songs of some songs that I like. And now let me make my own music. Let me create it. I can edit my own music video. I can film my own music video. Even like the one Thinking About You just now that I did. I filmed a lot of that myself. My mom helped film it and myself, because I have the capability and I'm able to do it. So I'm not waiting for a record label to come and give me the advance and say, here, now make us a music video, put us, do something. I feel like, why not work with someone who comes with something to the table? Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I feel it's like when you have a potluck and you're like, yo, did you bring something to eat? No, I ain't bring nothing. So why are you at this potluck? What happened? Like, where's your dish? Like, did you bring a bottle of soda at least or something? I don't know.
Something.
You know what I mean? Like, I would feel good knowing that I can work with a talent that's bringing a little something to the table. So now we can collab and create something together, instead of letting someone have all the ownership and just give you a little piece. You know what I'm saying? Because then at the end of the day, it's always going to be theirs,
So anybody's doing music these days, I would love to hear more up-tempo stuff, because everything's so down and just so slow, and I want up-tempo back. Whatever it might be, just a suggestion for me, but I'm just a lowly suggestion here.
No, that's good. I'll think about you when I'm creating the next song now. Something up-tempo. I got you.
120 beats a minute, something like that. You could, there's a lot of that where you got like dance music now that has that, with you just have a good voice, it goes and just blends right in, especially because there's just like, something percussion. Give me a little bit of rhythm. That's what I want for my music these days. Now, back at the start of the pandemic, New York Times wrote that celebrity culture is burning. And this is what I've been hampering about for a while. And this has been the story that really I've really grasped onto. They said that the pandemic had disrupted relations among the masses, the elites, and the celebrities who liaise between them. They went on to write, quote, among the social impacts of the coronavirus is its swift dismantling of the cult of celebrity. Completely agree with that. The famous are ambassadors of the meritocracy. They represent the American pursuit of wealth through talent, charm, and hard work. But the dream of class mobility dissipates when society locks down. The economy stalls, the death count mounts, and everyone's future is frozen inside their own crowded apartment or palatial mansion. The difference between the two has never been more obvious. So what do you say about celebrities now that are handling the pandemic, jumping on Zoom calls, making TikTok and Instagram videos without the makeup, the glamour, and trying to connect to fans in a different way? Because I know that you're doing the YouTube. I didn't know, and I know you have Instagram as well. Talk to me what you've been able to do and how your fans have been able to connect with you in that route.
Well, luckily, before the pre-pandemic, I was already putting myself out there, even on IGTV. I was already using that to do a lot of my cover songs and sing live, because I said, you know what, let me sing live. I want to show that capability. I want to show my skills, and I want to just perform in that sense. I'm not going to wait to be on the stage or something, or, I'll just do it. You know, if I'm an artist and if I'm a performer, I'm going to perform. I'm not just going to sit at home waiting for an opportunity. I'm going to do it. And I feel a little bit like Bubba Gump, like when he was getting no shrimp and all the other boats was getting shrimp, and then there was a big storm and he was the only boat that survived throughout that whole thingamajig, and then the shrimp started coming in. Right. And it's just funny, before the pandemic, I don't think I did so many Zoom meetings as I did pre-pandemic. Like, I mean, after the pandemic now, during the pandemic, I've done so much more. And it's just very interesting. And I said, it's like shifting something here, which is, I guess, in my benefit, it's good that I was already creating my stuff since 2016. I was already on YouTube, already making my web series and working with Instagram and stuff like that for like over 5 years now. And I've been doing it. So I felt like I was already prepared. And I felt when everyone now came on to Instagram, I felt that shift. Yeah. I felt it, because at first I'm like, hey, I'm singing, this is great. And then all of a sudden, hey, where y'all coming from? Like, it was like when somebody crashes the party and you're like, yo, but this party been going on. Where y'all been? You know what I mean? Like, where you guys been at? You know, y'all were enjoying y'all Hollywood stuff going on. And now y'all want to come and crash the party with us in a way. And it was kind of like, look, we'll welcome y'all in. But I think there needed to be more empathy too at the same time. Like, yes, we love watching performers. Yes, we need performers as a distraction. But it's okay if you don't put something on right away, or if you don't, you know what I'm saying? It's okay. You don't have to go and I got to do this now, and I got to just show myself on FaceTime to my fans, and you don't have to. You know what I mean? Just, if anything, I think you should try to relate a little more to what's going on. And everybody's entitled to their opinion. Everybody's entitled to say what they want and use their platform for whatever they want to use it for. I just wish there was a little more empathy and a little more transparency. You know what I mean? Like, if you know people are struggling, and I've been walking around New York, I've been seeing the food pantry lines, how long they gotten. I used to see some lines were like this small. Now I've seen them wrapping around the blocks. I'm seeing what's going on firsthand. These other people are not. So if you're not seeing what's going on, maybe don't speak on certain things, or don't say certain things that you're going to get backlash off of. But then again, I think this business too likes a little bit of both. They like bad publicity and good publicity. If some people can sleep at night with that stuff going on, then more power to them. But I would just, pray and hope that there's a little more transparency, man. Just a little more. Yeah.
They go on to write, quote, this compact rests on the celebrity's ability to seem to move easily between the elite and the masses, to be aspirational and approachable at once. And under normal circumstances, they're accustomed to receiving accolades for using their platforms, quote, or to raise awareness in the service of bland initiatives for the public good. But our awareness has never been so easy to rouse and misuse. Celebrities have a captive audience of traumatized people who are glued to the internet, eyes darting toward trending topics for clues for processing the unimaginable horrors looming just outside, and instead are finding Madonna bathing in a rose petal strewn bath. Stunts like Gal Gadot's crowdsourced famous person cover of John Lennon's Imagine, God, that was something else, was tone deaf in more than ways than one. And most of these people can't not even sing. And their contributions suggest that the very appearance of a celebrity is a salve, as if a pandemic could be overcome by star power alone. And one of the ironies of this moment is that though we feel less like stars than ever, they seem to feel more like us, or at least. So what they think it must feel to be like us, that's what they're acting like. The thing is, they've lost where they can't relate anymore. You're still grounded, which is the advantage for you. So I want to find out, because of that, I mean, that's what makes the advantage for what you're doing right now. Do you feel like that was the one thing that always helped you out, was that you always were able to stay grounded, and thus staying grounded with your family? That's what the importance is, to keep what you're doing organic and legit and believable.
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah, totally. Being grounded. Because like I said, there were moments in this business where I would got a little inflated. You know, when you're on a red carpet and when you're at events and things like that, you're going to get a little inflated. It's going to be like, holy mackerel, this is amazing. But then you got to come back down. You can't always stay inflated like that, man. You can't always let your ego get the best of you. You really can't.
But so many do.
I know. I wish I could tell them all, hey, y'all need to chill down, take a chill pill. I wish I could.
I don't want to tell you you're washed up, but, you know, let's call it is, right? So that's the whole idea. And it's unfortunate because some people just, they've taken that and they've absorbed it so much and they don't realize, you know, either they find themselves in a comeback or they don't, and they just live off and just take the devolving popularity that they have and it becomes nothing. And I would never want to go and have it be that way, which is most important, being grounded. Now, there are those celebrities that have been able to embrace different cameras over social media in a successful manner. And that's the one thing I think has been great is that there are those celebrities, there are those people that are famous that have found their way to be successful and to continue to just be relevant throughout. So, for instance, J-Lo, Gordon Ramsay, Jason Derulo doing work over at TikTok. Great stuff. Cardi B, Bella Thorne, Real Housewives of New York star Sonia Morgan, thriving at OnlyFans, doing adult stuff over there. Talk to me about how you've taken on staying busy and adapting to keep active with your work and still connecting with those who you follow. So is it mostly Instagram you still work with and all you're doing on YouTube? What other routes are you using to stay connected to your fans? What are the regular things you do right now?
A lot of what I do is I notice because using your social media is kind of like a focus group in real time. You know what I mean? It feels like that. So if you're posting certain content that works, it's like you're going to hear feedback from your fans like, hey, we want more of this, or oh my God, this is amazing. And then obviously seeing your view count go up for certain things, you're like, oh, I think fans like this a little more. So now I feel like this year alone, I started dealing more with my own music than I was years before. Years before, I was just focusing more on my one-woman show and then the jobs I'm getting. But now it's more in the music realm now. So then I started figuring out my voice there and like seeing that works. I think it's about trying to keep up too with, maybe they got bigger bills, you know what I'm saying? So they got to go and, do other things. They got to go and get other channels of revenue to, to keep up with the Joneses, as they say, you know what I'm saying? Like, listen, if that works for you, you want to go on OnlyFans, you want to go on the TikTok because they want to be relevant to the younger generation and all this have you, that works for some people. I don't work out of desperation, or I don't work out of like, I gotta be known. I gotta always be in the media. I always gotta be, this. I don't work like that because if you do, it's just, I don't know. It doesn't feel good, man. You know what I'm saying? It just does not feel right. I think if you're happy with what you're doing and you feel good about your work, then let whatever comes naturally is going to flow into your life. Now too, I'm working on vlogging. Like my brother, who's 10 years younger than I am, he's of a different generation. He was like, Steva, I want you to start vlogging because I think people should know what you're doing. Like they'll be interested knowing the behind the scenes of what you're working on in your everyday life. And I said, okay, that's interesting. I'm going to actually start working on that. So like today I just started that and I said, you know what? I think this is another source now for me to start going. Like let people see Steph, the actress, and see what her life is like, because I was always a little more private. That's another thing about me too. I'm a little more private. I may be out there with my social media, but I don't show a lot of what I go through behind the scenes. I normally don't because in this day and age, there is no more privacy, it looks like. So I try to keep a shred of that, just a little bit, because that's how I stay sane. You know what I mean? I don't think like I said, I love performing and people love to see me perform, but I'm not so like 24/7 where I got to do it all day, every day. I'm okay with that. Like that. I've stayed grounded in that sense. Thank God. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So for the other ones that are out there doing all that stuff, if it works for them and they're happy doing it, go ahead, do your thing. Like,
but then again, you're under control. You're working with your family, so like the influence is different. It's not like it's a kind of a full cash grab where agents and managers.
My sister told me, she was like, "I better not see you on OnlyFans stuff. Don't do that. Don't go that route." And I said, "Okay." She said, "If I see it on your phone, I'm gonna delete it." And I said, "Okay, all right, I'll stay off of OnlyFans. I got you."
Maybe Twitch if you're a gamer or something like that. Maybe that'll work. But come on, right?
Exactly.
God, man. All right, I want to ask you two more things. Before we wrap things up. LA Times recently reported that Lin-Manuel Miranda, John Leguizamo, and One Day at a Time creator Gloria Calderon-Kellett are among 270 showrunners, creators, television and film writers who are calling for systemic change in the entertainment industry in regard to Latinx artists. The group of writers and producers outlined their concerns in an open letter to Hollywood written in conjunction with Hispanic Heritage Month. And among the 5 demands laid out, the writers note the importance of hiring more Latinx talent, including in the decision-making roles like creator/showrunner. Quote, no stories about us without us. When it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, what do you think about the Latinx movement and the kind of advocacy some of your contemporaries are proposing?
You know, it's interesting because I go back to my brother, right? I don't know if he would be in that Latinx movement generation.
Yeah, I don't get the Latinx thing. I mean, it's, you know, I know they want to put that out there. It's kind of like how it was always positioning for like people that are more Caribbean-based Spanish to be positioned to more the La Raza, more the Mexican, Central America kind of thing. And there's too much difference there. There's a diversity within the Hispanic community on top of that. Even calling it Hispanics not even like the rest either.
Yeah, so. My brother, he's 24, and he told me too. He's like, no, I'm Latinx. Like, you know, he's not with that for some reason. I kind of agree. Listen, I'm Latina. Tú eres Latino. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what we Latin. Like, to me, that's what it is. And I feel like now with this Latinx, you kind of want to whitewash over what our culture is, man. You know what I mean? Like that. I get passionate. I got Hector Lavoe right here.
Oh, baby.
I don't play. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo soy Latino.
Cantante, yeah, man.
I know my roots. I know where I'm from. I know where my ancestors are from. You want to talk about us? We Latino. Just say that. Just say straight up, man. That's what we are. We're not here to make it sound better for the man. Oh, Latinx and Latinx. Like, what's this Latinx? No. I understand too, because it's supposed to be gender neutral, right? Is that what that is? The Latinx to be like Latino, Latina? No. What if they're not male or female? Listen, I don't know, man. Then just call yourself Latin. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's it. You know what I mean? Like, you know, but I'm happy too when any Latino or Latina uses their voice. When they use their voice for us, thank you. Whichever fashion form it is, thank you. And the best thing I could say is then create content. Create your own content. If you are who you are in this business and you're Latino, Latina, and you've made a name for yourself, then just create some shows or films that can incorporate us. No, what was it? No us without, no show business. What was that?
They said no stories about us without us.
No stories without us about, right. So you know what? Then we create our own stories with us. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And you know what? I ain't got nothing either against whites, blacks, whatever have you. If your story is going to incorporate them, then just incorporate them. Just bring them in there. I don't think about that. I don't think about, well, this person's that. No, just if they have the talent, if they got what I'm looking for just because it fits this part or whatever have you, then that's it. I'm happy with it. There has to be no other narrative. I'm not here trying to cram down people's throats, accept us now, accept Latinos. No, man. Look, we all been here. We're all here. We're all just trying to create. We're all just trying to share our talents and our passion. It shouldn't have to be, well, these few Latinos are talking and these few black people are talking. No, man, we all a part of the collective. And I think if anything with this pandemic, it did show that we're all the same, man. Yeah. Some people got a little more in their pockets. Fine, but and I think the veil has been lifted. It's just like the Wizard of Oz. When the wizard's behind the freaking mask up there, that guy, the face, he was behind that curtain the whole time, hiding. And now that has been lifted. He's like, no, don't look that way. Don't look over there. Don't pay attention over there, But I think that's what it was now. Everyone came on like afraid of losing their fan base or something, that they had to come on social media and had to do all this stuff. And you don't have to. If they need to listen to their fans more too. Yeah. Listen to the people, because they're telling you, look, we ain't asking for you to do an Imagine video. We're not asking for you to do this. We're not asking for none of that stuff. We're not looking for anything major like that, man. Just bear with us too. sympathize and empathize a little more. That's
we're
all
not a box you check. We're not a race that you're going to position as a pigeonhole. Because look, I know if in New York City, Dominicans and Puerto Ricans and the Cubans, and we're all different cultures, but we all speak Spanish. We all connect in some ways, and we're all different cultures, and I love them all. That's all there is to it.
We all bleed the same at the end of the day, man.
Absolutely.
We all bleed the same at the end of the day, man.
Well, Stephanie, I love this interview with you. It's been great to go and talk to you this last about hour or so. Before we wrap things up, go ahead and talk to our listeners. Let them know what you're doing. I know you've already finished up season 5 of Steph A One Woman Show. What are the things you're working on? Tell people where they can go and connect and learn more from you.
Yeah, man. Well, actually, I have like 4 more episodes of Steph I One Woman Show. Just a few more there going on. I know. I usually make 7, so I try to commit to that number. My mom always said, do 7. I said, okay, I'll do 7. It's a good lucky number, you know what I'm saying? And so I have just a few more of those. I'm going to start vlogging, so a lot of my fans can get a more in-depth view behind the scenes of my life. And I'm making another song within the next couple months coming up. And hopefully I'll make it up tempo for Jorge here, because 120.
Which is a thought,
No. I got you, though. I got you.
Have you done TikTok yet?
I did post something on a TikTok there. So I do have a TikTok. I think I named it the same thing, my Instagram, at Stephanie _Andujar_. I only put 1 post up so far with my One Big Dream video there, a snippet of it. So I can try to make some.
If there's any comedy you want to add into that, because obviously the 15, 60-second comedy kind of stuff you could do out there, that also rolls really good. It resonates a lot with people.
Yeah, man. I'll get on that too. It gets a little exhausting. I'm not going to lie. It gets a little like, oh, snap. Now I got to get on this app and this app. And
well, just if there's certain things you think you could do that might not fit for the one woman, it might not work for a longer form, and you think you could just take this little idea and just drop it in, that's what I would say. Not necessarily you have to create, but just like when there's something you don't think needs to be that big, it's just a good nugget, just drop it into TikTok.
All right, I got you, Jorge. Thank you.
I think you could do that. No, there's a lot you can do, and that thing is whatever you feel like doing. And I'm glad that you're independent. Independent creators, filmmakers, musicians. I love all that. Because my thing is, it's the message I want to bring out there is that you don't have to just follow. There's only a certain route you have to go. Listen, take both. Appreciate where you're going on both routes. That's what's most important.
Word. I agree.
Well, anyway, and then please go and plug where we can go and find all your projects and where we can find you on social media.
Yeah, Instagram at Stephanie Andujar, Stephanie _Andujar_. And they can also go to StephanieAndujar.com, because all my social media is linked there, and you can just find everything there. Andujar Productions YouTube channel.
Fantastic. Stephanie, thank you so much for being on with us. I got to run.
Thank you, Jorge. I'll see you on Twitter. I started following you on Twitter.
Yeah.
So I'll start, hitting you up there every now and then.
You got
now
it.
that I know who you are,
And I'll put this out in a couple weeks. So thanks so much for being on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jorge. I appreciate it, man.
All right. God bless.
Take care, man.
Sure. Next week, I start another great interview with Warren H. Cohn. He's the CEO and founder of Herald PR and CEO and co-founder of Emerald Digital. And he is founded a New York City-based public relations firm focusing on providing expert services to his clients, traditional public relations, social media, digital advertising, company personal branding, website development, and one of the focuses I'll talk about next week with him, crisis management. Just so you know, his firm was responsible for representing some really maligned figures in the celebrity industry, including celebrity chef Paula Deen, and more importantly, movie mogul Harvey Weinstein. We talk about that with him next week and all the things that were going on with that. A fascinating interview to go and talk with him right now. So we'll go ahead and have that coming up for all of you coming up next week here on the program. Until then, remember, content is king, and the control of your content is in your hands.
Thank you for listening to the Broadcasters Podcast, presented by BroadcastersPodcast.com and KingofPodcasts.com. The Broadcasters Podcast is brought to you by KingofPodcasts.com/Amazon. If Amazon is good enough for the King of Podcasts, it most certainly is good for you. KingofPodcasts.com/Amazon. And don't forget to check out the King of Podcasts wrestling program, The Wrestling is Real Podcast, exclusively at KingofPodcasts.com.